The meeting to order on January 23rd, Mayor Mark Sukup, Mayor Pro Tem Brett Hansen,
Here.
Councilmember Lisa Lake, Councilmember Robert Oxmacher,
Present.
Councilmember Luke Wagner.
Here. Aaron, amendments to the agenda? No amendments. With that, Melissa, can you run our public hearing here?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. As you may be aware, I spoke at the recent Planning Commission meeting in support of the Ladera Annexation 3 application, the rezoning to regional commercial, and the PD overlay with some concerns related to parking requirements. What happens, I have a question. What happens if the mining reclamation ballot is passed after the town has approved annexation? Are property rights granted and then taken away? Those concerns were not considered by the Planning Commission, and town legal counsel was not able to advise the Planning Commission in public, despite an interest in the issue by some commissioners. When asked by the chairman, Ladera's attorney, only comment on the issue was no comment. While it is my sincere hope that this property is ultimately annexed and developed, I do remain concerned about the issue. Sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. In an effort to facilitate consideration of the issue, I produced a decision flow chart. I spent most of a day on it, thinking about it, that outlines possible choices by the council and Timnath voters and the potential outcomes that might occur under various combinations. I hope this flow chart is of some value to you in your deliberations on this important matter. I do believe the voice of Timnath voters should be heard on this issue prior to an annexation. Why? Because it's the right and ethical thing to do. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else there, Melissa?
That's it for general public comment.
All right, thank you. I was out a couple weeks ago with a little bit of a respiratory illness, and I'm over it, but I do occasionally have these coughing fits, so I'll ask for patience and apologize for any of those that are induced tonight. With that, we will move on to the consent agenda. I will read through the consent agenda as presented and then ask for comments. The consent agenda as presented is the approval of the November 2nd, 2023 Special Town Council meeting minutes. 4B, approval of the January 9th, 2024 Town Council meeting minutes. 4C, January 12th, 2024 check register. 4D, first reading and setting a public hearing for February 13th, 2024 at 6 p.m. Ordinance number 4, Series 2024. An ordinance amending the town budget for the 2024 budget year. 4E, first reading and setting a public hearing on February 13th, 2024 at 6 o'clock p.m. Ordinance number 5, Series 2024, an ordinance amending Chapter 4 of the Municipal Code regarding impact fees and updating the associated fee schedules therein. 4F, first reading and setting a public hearing on February 13th, 2024, ordinance number 6, Series 2024, an ordinance adopting procedures for disconnection of land from the town of Timnath. 4G, first reading and setting a public hearing on February 13th, 2024, ordinance number 7, Series 2024. An ordinance for annexation for property known as Connell Annexation 3. 4H, first reading and setting a public hearing on February 13th, 2024, ordinance number 8, series 2024, an ordinance for the zoning map amendment of the property known as Connell Annexation 3 to the town of Timnath. 4I, first reading and setting a public hearing on February 13th, 2024, ordinance number 9, series 2024, an ordinance for the Ladera Phase 2 Plan Development Overlay. Do I have any comments on the consent agenda?
I just have two comments. The first with respect to item 4D, which amends the town budget. That amendment is something that we discussed extensively at the last meeting and dealt with change in the town engineering staff and also allocating money for traffic safety improvements, study and some other things associated with that. So I just kind of want to let people know that that's what that was. If anyone has any questions, they can refer to the last meeting. With respect to item 4G, the first reading and setting a public hearing for ordinance 7, series 2024 regarding the annexation of Connell, annexation 3, I would request that we pull that item from the consent agenda and have a presentation and discussion on that this evening. And I suggest that maybe we put it either before or after item 6E, which also deals with that same property.
The item on the annexation piece will move to the very last item of business there. With that, do I have a motion on the consent agenda pulling item 4G?
I suppose I will move to pull 4G from the consent agenda, although I don't know that a motion is required.
I think we'd just be moving to pass the consent agenda as amended.
No, I would move to pass consent agenda as amended with 4G removed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda as amended passes unanimously. With that, mayor and council reports. Luke, Robert, any comments? Okay. I do have a comment of my own and then a statement that the mayor has asked to be read in his absence. The original agenda, Aaron, it had an item related to some Metro District fee increases from the Timnath Lakes Metro District. And I noticed it was pulled. I haven't asked what the reason why is yet, and that's fine. We can talk later, but I do think in general, we have set a pretty good precedent of if a developer wants to ask the council for fee increases, we need to see definitive approval from the residents in that district. From what I saw in the packet before the item was pulled, there was some neighborhood meetings and outreach. And as I recall, the phrasing was residents understood the need for the fee increases was the language that was presented. Just so staff can pass this on to any Metro District boards looking for a fee increase, that is not enough for me to consider it. I would want to see definitive, yes, this resident controlled board controls, is in agreement with a fee increase or something of that nature. So I don't know the full story there, and that's not on the agenda tonight. But in general, I think that's a pretty good precedent we've set, and I'd like us to maintain that.
And that was pulled at the request of the applicants of the Metropolitan District that was requesting. And I understand that they are continuing to work with the residents to
Okay.
try to reach an agreement before it's going to come back to you sometime, probably late spring.
Okay. With the information I had in the initial package drop, I would have voted just no because I didn't see resident impact. So it would be good for the Metro District boards to know that. I won't speak for the whole council, but I think they agree with me on that. With that, I have a statement from the mayor. Members of the town council and our Timnath community, today we stand at a pivotal juncture facing one of the most significant decisions in our tenure. We are presented with a unique opportunity to transform the gateway of our town from an unappealing site into a vibrant hub of essential services, restaurants, and thriving businesses. The proposed Ladera annexation is a catalyst for this transformation. By moving forward with this plan, we can bid farewell to the unsightly asphalt plant and its industrial towers, paving the way for a dynamic array of establishments, including a high-quality hotel filling a notable void in our town's hospitality offerings. This establishment will provide a welcoming space for visiting friends and family, enhancing our town's allure and convenience. Also, a cutting-edge care facility dedicated to supporting families with children facing mental and physical challenges. This facility will not only serve our community, but also stand as a testament to Timnath's commitment to inclusivity and support for those in need. Also, a diverse range of dining options addressing the current scarcity in our culinary landscape. This includes the exciting potential addition of an In-N-Out burger, among other establishments. And finally, a variety of businesses providing goods and services which will reduce the need for our residents to venture outside our town for their everyday needs. The economic benefits of this annexation are substantial. The increased sales tax revenue will position Timnath as an envy of Northern Colorado. These funds will enable us to develop state-of-the-art parks, enhance our streets and roadways, and acquire essential equipment like street sweepers and snowplows, significantly improving the quality of life and travel within Timnath. Concerns raised against this annexation are based on misunderstandings. Rigorous reviews by the state of Colorado will ensure the ecological integrity of the site. The hotel, part of our nationally recognized and respected chain, will uphold high standards of maintenance and cleanliness, contributing positively to our town's image. Endorsing the Ladera annexation is not just a choice, but a responsibility towards the betterment of Timnath. It promises a future where our town is not just a place to live, but a destination to thrive, a beacon of progress and community spirit. Let us seize this moment and make a decision that will shape a prosperous and vibrant future for all who call Timnath home. Mark Sukup, Mayor. With that, we'll run through staff reports. Excuse me. Lisa, anything to add on the finance report? Yes. Exciting.
I just have one clarification on the staff report. There was a typo where it says sales tax revenue is at a decrease compared to last year. That's not true. That was the typo. We're actually slightly above last year, and we're anticipating we'll hit our budget target in December. That is our biggest month. Also, Bonnie Janice did an incredible job putting together this new financial report, and we're open to suggestions. If you have any comments or want to see any additional information, just reach out and let me know.
Thank you. Engineering report, Justin.
I have nothing to add unless you have questions.
I don't think so. Community development, Matt, or over here? No. Okay. And then staff report from Chief Jones. Any? Nothing else to add. Thank you. Yes.
Can I make a brief inquiry? And Sarge, I'm not sure if you have anything you can share, but I know we publicized recently a number of break-ins in town, and I was just curious if there's anything that you can share about that.
As of today, no, there's nothing else we can share. We're continuing an investigation for everything right now. Did some DNA and some other samples, but nothing.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that.
With that, we'll move on to business. Our first item is a presentation from the county, Shaping the Future of Public Health in Larimer County.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, and Town Manager Aaron Adams. I thank you for carving out some time and allowing me the opportunity to share what we're calling Shaping the Future of Public Health in Larimer County. We started this presentation road tour, would you say, back in August. We started with the town of Wellington. We've made our trip around this beautiful county of Larimer, and we're on our 13th visit. We've got 2 more to go. And I think one of the things that I take away from it is all the commonalities we share, but then there are the differences we share throughout Larimer County. And so we want to be able to come to you, understand what some of those challenges are, and serve as your health department. Our mission is working to provide everyone in Larimer County the opportunity for a healthy life. Real simple, but there's some key words in there. Working to provide everyone that opportunity for a healthy life. I heard as the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem read the mayor's letter, inclusivity. That's so important that we're talking about some of the work around here, that we are elevating everyone's voices, that we're hearing from everyone and giving them the opportunity for a healthy life. While our mission is health, I think that's a shared mission with all of us. We all want to have healthy families. We want to have a healthy, thriving community. And that goes hand in hand with our economy as well. So we want to be able to work with you and share those values together when it's around health. So a little bit about the presentation. We're going to talk about and introduce Public Health 3.0, the power of partnership. What does that mean? What is a health strategist? We're going to talk a lot about that. How does this concept benefit Timnath? Our programming, and then some public health in action. But first, introducing Public Health 3.0, looking at over 100 years ago, when we were looking at what got people ill, what caused people to die. Two areas within public health: vaccinations, we learned through the germ theory, as well as sanitation, basic environmental health, clean water, safe food. That's when the health department came about, and that was our work at the time, and that was really 1.0. And that went on for many years. Through that work, we extended the lifespan quite extensively through that basic vaccinations and general sanitation. But then in the mid-1980s, emerging issues came around: chronic disease, heart disease, cancer, as well as other emerging public health issues such as HIV/AIDS. And that born Public Health 2.0. At the time, we did not have federally qualified healthcare centers. We did not have those safety nets in place, so public health served in that role, taking on much of those clinical roles and starting to address chronic disease. Well, in 2008, a lot changed with the Affordable Care Act. We now do have federally qualified health centers. We have more clinics, safety nets per se. But we're starting to see that change more on what causes ill, or at least we're understanding more. And we're going to talk a lot about more of those social determinants or social influences of health. And in 2008, born Public Health 3.0. The centerpiece of 3.0 is really around this concept of being health strategists, where we're accessing critical data. And we're using that data to become advisors and advocates, and helping people to stay healthy, and then enabling more vibrant, resilient communities, really looking at health and all policies through data. You know, one thing that's really unique about the health department is we are your health department. We're the City of Fort Collins Health Department. Unlike most county functions where you have your own road and bridge, then the county has a road and bridge. We are your health department. We want to make sure we're here. And one thing I learned through COVID-19, the challenges that was, our relationships. Knowing your city manager, town manager really well, making sure we're coordinated and that questions are being answered and those kind of things, the logistics part. So we want to continue that with serving as your health department. We're going to talk a lot more about the social determinants of health, and that's really key. It's what we're talking is about is conditions where people are born, where they live, learn, work, play, worship, and their age that affect a wide range of health outcomes. And as I said, when we've gone through the county, there are similar challenges we all have, and there are unique challenges, and we can work on all of those together as a community. Let's talk about solutions for today. We've heard about the familiar issues that were definitely in 1.0 and Public Health 2.0, and that's communicable and chronic disease, foodborne illness, parent-child family health, our clinical services, environmental health and safety, including air quality, emergency response, and others. But now we're looking at what we call these social determinants. That's looking at more income, employment, child care, mental and emotional health, transportation, education, access, and housing. For example, we know there's a housing crisis in our community. The cost of housing for many puts in a lot of that what we call conditions where there is stress, or maybe they are making it month to month, barely being able to afford housing, or they're couch surfing, unfortunately, living in a car, or without a home, living a person with experiencing homelessness. So that is a social determinant of health that snowballs into a whole lot of other poor health outcomes. What's unique here in Timnath with your growth that you've seen from 2010, literally going from 500 population to over 7,000. I had to ask my data analyst, is that true? Is your housing is much different than other parts of the county where 93% of your households in Timnath are owner-owned homes, compared to 64% throughout the county. So that's a uniqueness, and that's something we can certainly look around at the built environment, but that's a factor that's unique to Timnath compared to everyone else. And another aspect, we talked about age, is I found this one astounding. 53% of Timnath households have at least one child under the age of 18, compared to 33% of the county. I'm sorry, 28% and 33% less than 18, your population total, compared to 18% around the county. So we know you have a lot of youth, and so there's those unique challenges that come out of that. Also, we're looking at food insecurity and how that plays into one's health. Our data shows that 1 in 8 children in Larimer County go to bed hungry. And we know that policies are helping with free breakfast and free lunch in our public schools. But also access to healthy fruits and vegetables plays in that. But when you think about a kid that's hungry in school, not only does that impact just their malnutrition, it impacts their ability to learn, then setting them back later in life for employment and other income that could better their social determinants of health. So that's how these all play together when we're talking about it. So where are we going? We really want to build stronger connections with civic and community leaders, such as today. We want to be here. We want you to know who we are. We want to be able for you to access the data that you may need. We want to sharpen our focus on proactive solutions. Public Health 1.0 and 2.0, in many ways, we're reactive. We want to be more proactive. So we want to make sure we're prepared for whatever the next issue is or next challenge, and look forward to whatever those challenges are coming up upon us, and being bridge builders and definitely active partners. We want to definitely make sure we're having those cross-sectional collaborations. So how does that benefit? We're going to talk a lot about that in some of the public health in action, but today's problems, as you know up there, are complex. They're not simple. It's not right or wrong. So we have to look at everything, and that's where that data comes to help us. Making sure that we're looking at things early on and collaborating and looking at policies that include health as a lens. Making sure that no community in Larimer County is underserved. And we look at that. I was sharing some data with the city of Loveland. There are areas within Larimer County that we have in the census block more than 30% of that population seeking governmental support, whether that's SNAP, WIC, or other governmental support. When you dive into the data, it's typically our BIPOC, our Black, Indigenous people of color. So we know that there are communities within our community that are underserved. They have less access to those goods or social determinants of health compared to everyone else. And we call that health equity. Now that's very different than equality. Equality means that each individual or group of people is given the same resource or opportunity. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is equity, which recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resources, opportunities needed to reach an equal outcome. And I think that's where we want to be the convener, the health strategist, to help you on any of those challenges to make sure equity is forefront in any of the policies that you're enacting. So talk a little bit about our programming at the health department. We do have 3 locations at 1525 Blue Spruce, Fort Collins. That's more North Fort Collins. We do have a location in Loveland and then one in Estes Park. So our strategic planning and health equity initiatives are just that. Internally, we have a team that has really transformed the health department since the beginning of the COVID-19, where a bright light was shone right on inequities, especially when we were trying to get vaccines out. And you could really see that just building a vaccine clinic at the ranch didn't mean that everybody had the transportation mode, mechanism, time, or the ability to get to the ranch to get the vaccine. So we've really shifted on how we look at things. We're coming into communities and asking communities what they need, what resources are they missing, or where are the barriers for those resources to really make the impact so that we can be strategic partners within those communities. We're also collaborating on more vision, direction, and goals. We want to hear, what do you want from the health department? We want to know what Timnath, where are we missing? Where are the gaps? And definitely recommendations to improve health equity and meeting all the diverse needs of our community. Our Office of Public Health and Planning, that's where our data and population epidemiology resides. One aspect over the last 4 years is really our ability to get critical data and then have the trained professionals to digest that data and give it all to you is something that we've really transformed. For example, we now can get data every week. We get data from our hospitals telling us why people are in the emergency department. So we can tell you whether that's a respiratory issues that we're seeing, or it's air quality issues, or whatever the matter may be. We see that data. Unfortunately, the data is showing that we are seeing a lot of youth, predominantly girls, in our EDs for behavioral health, mental health, suicide thoughts, these kind of situations. And we know that in Larimer County to be an issue. Thank you, voters, for getting our behavioral health services passed. Longview is open. It's able to divert some of those patients that need that critical care over at Longview where they can get the trained professional. But right now, our data is saying we are seeing quite a few young people going to the ED for anxiety, depression, and those kind of things. And that's something as a community we need to continue to tackle. Also, the Community Health Improvement Plan is housed in this op department. That comes out of our Community Health Assessment, and Corey has our most recent Community Health Assessment, which is all the data from those social determinants and where we in Larimer County are at compared to the state and to the United States. Within that Community Health Improvement Plan, we've identified 2 key areas that have went to the Board of Health. One is isolation, where we have heard from the community, the data showing us many of these poor health outcomes come from people that are not connected to the community, they don't have social connections, and they feel isolated. In fact, the Surgeon General, America's doctor, declared an epidemic in the United States in May on loneliness and isolation. So we want to work with all of our communities to make sure everybody feels welcome in Larimer County, that they are connected and they have social connections, whatever their interests are, because we know when they're lonely, it leads to more poor health outcomes. And that's one aspect we're going to be looking at over the next 5 years. Also, we've been working a lot with our youth engagement program. I talk about the data that we're concerning about our youth. We're working with Thompson, Poudre, and Estes Park school districts to really hear from our youth on what are the issues, what would help those issues. So we have a youth coalition where we're getting that, hearing from their voices. We still do have some clinical services, nothing like in the 80s, but we do provide low and no cost vaccinations for children and those that do not have insurance or Medicaid. We provide health information and sexual and reproductive health at all 3 of our clinics, our sites, our parent, child, and family health, our nurse family partnership program. That's where we have a nurse with a first-time parent come to their home and help them with basic life skills and care for that child, because we know those first 2 years are so important in the child's development. Our Women, Infants, Children program, that's our supplemental nutrition program. We have over 3,600 clients right now that are seeking WIC benefits in our community. And then our HCP program, which provides that coordination with families that have children who have special health care needs, navigate the complex systems to get those assistance. Our environmental health, we work closely with your team, especially your community development on the built environment, considering environmental and health and all policies when you're building. Air quality, waste and water, drinking water and burn permits, food inspections, those kind of things from the environment. And lastly, our communicable disease program, that's certainly been in the forefront with the pandemic, but there's over 100 reportable diseases such as Salmonella, E. coli, and hospitalization influenza that our team are investigating and trying to prevent an outbreak or a cluster. And we're working with everybody throughout the county to prepare for whatever's next. Hopefully it's not another pandemic, but if it is, we'd like to be a little bit more prepared than we were last time. And that goes into our emergency preparedness program where we work with your team to make sure we are prepared on the next issue or disaster. Moving along into public health action, I love this picture because a lot of times we talk about the built environment, it's access. And what's really exciting is the trail that will go under I-25 that'll connect Timnath to Fort Collins and down to Greeley and Windsor, et cetera. So that's just really that trail, that connection where everyone has access to natural areas, to areas to recreate. That's so important when we're going to move along our community health improvement plan. Some of our activities, our air quality, we've really shifted that program to be much more proactive, where we're adding 2 additional regulatory monitoring sites, one right here in Timnath. It's a partnership with Poudre School District. What that'll be able to do for us is tell us ozone levels on this side of the county compared to where the blue dots was just over or the green dots in Fort Collins. So we can learn a little bit about the influences of those precursors that we've never had before. And also we can give Timnath and this community exact monitoring results, where now you're either hearing from Fort Collins, Greeley, or Longmont. So that's something that is exciting. Another piece comes out of our child fatality review team, where we review all preventable child deaths. One of those is SIDS. We do see not only in Larimer County, but statewide and nationally, sudden and unexpected infant death is one of the leading causes of infant mortality in the United States. So we've put a campaign together for new parents at birthing centers on information about safe sleep, co-sleeping, those things. And we have sleep sacks that we got through a grant to prevent a child's death. I will say that much of the data shows co-sleeping as a high risk, especially when the parent is under marijuana or any other influences of a drug. So that's something we're really trying to educate parents to, boy, I know you're tired or whatever, but get the baby put in a safe crib with no fluffies, and then, keep that separate so that's not co-sleeping, but that has been some tragic deaths in our county because of that. Also, we're real excited, support from the Board of Health and financial support by the Board of County Commissioners. We launched a one-of-a-kind health, well-being, and resilience data dashboard. That's at larimer.gov/health dashboard. And we've got some cards for you that makes it a little easier for you to get to it. But this has got all the 9 social determinants of health on there, including some other aspects and parameters. You can dive in and look at the data specific for Larimer County, and then you can drill down and look at Timnath. Some of the data I'm giving you is coming right off the data dashboard. The goal with the dashboard is when you guys are working and deliberating on difficult decisions, that you can go to the dashboard and see what the data is showing. And hopefully that can give you some more information when you're making those decisions. Our community health assessment I referenced, that's really dives a little bit deeper into some of those social determinants of health and those categories and how where we're at in Larimer compared to the state. One thing I'm really proud of the team this year when we looked at the community health assessment, which is required every 5 years by state statute, is we dove deeper into qualitatives. Certainly the quantitative, all the numbers, but we put together 13 groups throughout the county. We really, with an emphasis of equity, to hear from all voices. And so you'll see in the report voices from our residents on what are those barriers and challenges. And so that's really, I think, a complement to the community health assessment plus the community health improvement plan. But finding out or determining isolation and loneliness is a real key issue here. That was through our qualitative. That was from asking people. So that's all in that booklet that we'll give to you. And then one of those proactive creative solutions is, if you've all heard, the TAC 212, it's the new youth center in Fort Collins. This is a collaboration between the city of Fort Collins, Poudre School District, the county, and the health department, and the Outreach for Family Center. But This is something the youth have been asking well before I was hired here in 2018, that they want a third place, a place that is substance-free, that is led by the youth. And we finally got them through a grant and the partnership I said. And here's a creative solution that the youth have there on 212 Mountain Street. They drive the activities that go in there. They drive the programs that are going on there. They've got some behavioral health programs. They've got education and so forth. And it's ran out of the Family Outreach Center. This is something I think every part of our community needs. I mean, amount of kids we have here in Timnath, percentage-wise, be great to get a youth center here if there's a collaborative way we can do that, because that's going to help with that youth mental health crisis we're seeing. So our goal, this was the pilot, get one of them, let's get them all over, get them in Berthoud and Timnath, Estes, Wellington, et cetera. But that's been a real success, and we're hearing from the youth that they're really, really enjoying this third space. I'd show, it's a video, but unfortunately we can't show the video through the process. It kind of, what you get to hear the youth voice instead of me just gibber-abbing. But we'll make sure we'll give you a link to the video so you can watch it at your leisure. I think lastly, just really want to come to you all with a clear communication, shared vision and goals, early engagement, understanding what the challenges are here in a collaborative spirit, working together on what we can do to solve problems. That's what I have. Any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. I don't have any questions. I don't know if Robert or Luke. No. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have item 6B, ordinance number 2, series 2024, an ordinance authorizing a mail ballot election on April 2nd, 2024, and setting forth other details relating thereto. Carolyn.
Thank you. This is a standard resolution that you pass when you have an upcoming election, and it sets forth a designation of the designated election official as the town clerk, and also sets forth the date of the election, April 2nd, 2024. You have two council seats and a mayoral seat up for election. And the deadline has passed for submitting petitions, but the write-in deadline is January 29th. 29th for people who want to be write-in candidates. And that should actually say 2024, so correct that. But with that, this is recommended for approval. And we will not be canceling the election. So
No, that's not
that
how it rolls.
authorizes that as a possibility. There are 3 candidates for council, and there is also the initiative that will be on the ballot.
I'm going to go ahead and I feel I'd be a little remiss if I didn't take a moment to, unless something changes, congratulate our mayor-elect, Mr. Robert Oxemacher here to my right, who for the moment appears to be running unopposed in the mayoral election. So I want to congratulate you and thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you, Brad. I appreciate that. Thank you.
We have a public hearing on this agenda item.
I will open the public hearing at 6:38. There is nobody signed up to speak. I will close the public hearing at 6:38.
Thank you. With that, do I have a motion on ordinance number 2, series 2024, an ordinance authorizing a mail ballot election on April 2nd, 2024, and setting forth other details relating thereto?
Excuse me. I move to approve ordinance number 2, series 2024, ordinance authorizing mail ballot election on April 2nd, 2024, and setting forth other details relating thereto.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Ordinance number 2, series 2024, an ordinance authorizing a mail ballot election on April 2nd, 2024, and setting forth other details relating thereto. Business item 6C, ordinance number 3, series 2024, an ordinance approving the McMorris Plan Development Overlay Amendment. Chad.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and council members.
Items 6C and 6D are development proposals for the same property. So if it's all right with council, I will present those all at once, and then we can open and close following that presentation, both items. So the property owners for the McMorris subdivision are SC Land Estates LLC, Timnath Estates LLC, Harmony LLC, and Postmodern Development. The applicant is JR Engineering, represented by Ken Merritt. The subject property consists of 46.7 acres and is located south of and adjacent to Bus Grove Road, west of Harmony subdivision and north of the Timnath Lakes subdivision. As you may remember, part of the Harmony subdivision was subdivided and included with the McMorris property, which is why you're seeing these multiple parcels and their multiple property owners. And the property is zoned estate residential in the town's official zoning map. And just a quick snapshot of where we are right now in the development process. The PD overlay falls within the rezoning, as it is a overlay making modifications to the dimensional standards in that base zoning. Also, the sketch plan for the McMorris subdivision was approved in August of 2023. So we are at the preliminary plat stage, the second stage in that major subdivision process. The McMorris PD overlay, which is allowing changes to the dimensional standards for zoning districts for unique development otherwise not achievable. This is a planned development overlay application to make modifications to dimensional standards of the Timnath Land Use Code for 27 estate residential lots making up the McMorris subdivision. The intent of this overlay is to provide more flexibility to create a pedestrian-oriented, more compact product type that would be compatible with the Harmony subdivision to the east and provide a smoother transition to that adjacent R2 zoning to the south and southwest. With the exception of one request, the changes in the PD overlay are for the entire development. Generally, the overlay is asking for relief on lot sizes and setbacks. Some of those changes, which I highlighted in the packet, are decreasing the front yard setback from 30 feet to 25, decreasing the side yard setback from 20 feet to 7 feet, increasing the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 25, decreasing the minimum lot width from 140 feet to 100, and increasing the allowable maximum impervious lot coverage from 25 to 50%. In addition, this proposal is requesting to reduce the minimum lot area for lots 25 through 27 to 0.45 acres from the required 0.5 in the RE zoning district. And this is compatible with the approved Harmony PD overlay that is in place today. Next, we will go to the McMorris preliminary plat application, which is item 6D. This plat is proposing, as I mentioned, 27 single-family detached lots with a gross density of 0.48 dwelling units per acre, complying with the estate residential zoning district. The minimum lot size shown on this plat is 20,718 square feet, and the maximum is 160,615 square feet. This lot at the maximum would contain the existing barn and residents that lie on the property today. The average lot size would then be approximately 33,880 square feet, also complying with that RE zoning district. The plan is including a 0.85 acre pocket park and roughly 22 acres or 47% of the gross property for functional open space, exceeding the required 20% for the single family development. And is also adhering to the open space requirements set forth in section 5764. The plat also provides a regional trail in accordance with the town's PROS framework map. Ultimately, this will help bridge the connection between the town's existing trail that runs under Harmony Road now up to the Timnath Reservoir and strengthening that pedestrian connection north-south. This proposed plat is in conformance with the McMorris PD overlay discussed in item 6C. There was a neighborhood meeting requirement for this application, and they provided information on both the PDO and the preliminary plat. This meeting was properly noticed and held on November 1st at the Harmony Club. There were approximately 7 individuals present, and their questions, along with the applicant's response, is outlined in that observation report included in the packet. Both of these requests have been reviewed by the referral agencies impacted by the development, and their comments have been addressed. Staff has reviewed both applications against the Timnath Land Use Code criteria and approved McMorris sketch plan for compliance. The preliminary plat was also reviewed against the town's technical criteria manual and master drainage plan. Both will be reviewed in full at the final review or final plat review process. So with that, staff is recommending approval of items 6C and 6D. And I will turn it over to Ken if he would like to add some more context.
Thank you, Chad. My name's Ken Merritt. Happy New Year's, Council. It's not too late to say that, is it? Chad always does a great introduction. I appreciate it. But I do have to say a few things up here. Again, my name's Ken Merritt with JR Planners, Engineers, and Landscape Architects, representing the owners tonight of the McMorris Development SC Land, Timnath Land, Estates, Harmony LLC, and Postmodern Development. You may remember seeing this project presented to you as a sketch plan back in August, but quickly, just for purpose of orientation, the property lies just south, shown in red, south of Bus Grove, directly west of the Harmony subdivision. We're approximately 1.5 miles east of I-25 and 1 mile west of Latham Parkway. The property is approximately 47 acres in size, zoned RE. Our direct neighbor to the east, Harmony subdivision, is the primarily zoned RE, directly adjacent to our eastern boundary. Property to the north, the White Wing development you recently annexed, and I believe you may have reviewed a sketch plan on that recently as well. Timnath Reservoir land to the north is in the county and is zoned RR2, and property to both the south and west of us, Timnath Lakes property is zoned R2. Just by way of review, this is a collaboration, an assemblage of properties that are bringing the 4 owners together. It's the old Timnath Estates that was zoned to the city, platted several years ago in Timnath, approximately 9.3 acres zoned RE. The blue area is the McMorris property, 34 acres. It has not been annexed, but it is a legal, has not been subdivided, but is a legal parcel of property, 34.2 acres zoned RE. And then there is Lot 6, Block 10 of the Harmony subdivision, which is approximately 2.7 acres. And then Outlot 1, Harmony minor subdivision, which we recently did a small minor subdivision in the Harmony development to create all of the 46.7 acres needed for the McMorris development. So real quick, I just go over some of the metrics. We already talked about the acreage, 46.7. We have approximately 4 acres of right-of-way that will be dedicated, lot area of approximately 21 acres, and open space of 22 acres, and that is correct. It is 47% open space, significantly exceeding the requirement for open space throughout the development. The project will take access at 2 key points off of Bus Grove. If you're familiar with the old Timnath Estates project, there is a current cul-de-sac and access point to that 3-lot subdivision that comes off of Bus Grove. We're maintaining that. That's our westerly access. That'll provide primary access to the site. The access road that we're calling Acres Circle will extend south and cross over the Lake Canal. The Lake Canal is not part of our subdivision. It is actually a separate outlot and not included in our subdivision. And that entry roadway will maneuver through the site and exit at our eastern boundary at Bus Grove. There are no connections, roadway connection, vehicular connections to either Harmony development or the Timnath Lakes development to the west. The roadway section is consistent with the local street for Timnath in that it's 36-foot wide flow-to-flow with 5-foot detached sidewalks and 8-foot tree lawns and trees planted at approximately 40 feet on center. As I mentioned, the lot sizes range in size. There are 27 lots, and they range in size from approximately a half acre in size. Lot 23, 24 of the lots are a half acres in size or larger. And lot number 10 is the largest lot, approximately 3.7 acres in size. And it contains the existing McMorris home residence, as well as an old stone barn, both of which are intended to be renovated and repurposed as a new residence in this development. Part of the PD overlay are 3 lots, lots 25, 26, and 27, illustrated here with a red star. Those are 3 lots that do not meet the half-acre minimum standard. We're asking for a PD overlay to allow those to fall just shy of about 1,000 square feet shy of a half acre in size. There are 2 detention ponds on the site. The first in the northwest corner that discharges directly in the Lake Canal, and one in the southeast corner that will discharge into the Timnath Reservoir Canal on the southeast side of our property. We also have 3 Greeley water lines along the south boundary of the property that run through and create a nice opportunity for a significant landscape buffer between this development and the future development of the Timnath Lakes area, which is both south and west of us, approximately 200-foot wide landscape buffer. We are kind of constricted in where we can provide landscaping. We have to sort of arrange our landscaping between the 3 Greeley water lines. There is a regional trail. A portion of the Timnath Regional Trail is being developed with this project. It begins at the southeast corner of the property and meanders through the open space I just discussed, eventually reaches our western boundary and turns to the north, crossing the Lake Canal with a pedestrian bridge and is extended all the way to the Busk Grove intersection, where it will eventually tie into another portion of the regional trail system that will be developed with the White Wing development. There's also a requirement, the town's requirement for a pocket park within a development of this size. The town's requirement is a half-acre minimum size. We have a pocket park which will be approximately 8.5 acres. It'll include a large tot lot area designed for ages 2 through 8 years of age. It'll include a picnic shelter with a barbecue pits, as well as picnic tables, bicycle racks, etc. The park will also be surrounded with a 4-foot high rail fence, similar to what's used throughout the Harmony development, in order to provide safety for the residents of the development. I'm going to back up for a moment and just mention a key aspect of this development. The McMorris subdivision, although it's a separate subdivision, is intended to be fully integrated into the Harmony development. Residents of the McMorris development will have full access to all the open space within Harmony, as well as all the recreational amenities and the golf club as well. Apologize for overlooking that, a very important aspect. Finally, is the PD overlay. And as I mentioned, we're requesting that the lots 25, 26, and 27 are permitted for just approximately 0.45 acres in size rather than 0.5. The red stars next to those, the top line are the current standards, as Chad pointed out. The bottom line with the red stars are those items which we are asking a revision of. The front yard setback is 30 feet, and we're asking for 25 feet. The rear, and that is intended to allow us to increase the amount of setback in the rear yard from 20 feet to 25 feet, thereby providing more buffer from the residential structures to the open space. All the lots in this development back or side to significant open space areas. A reduction in the minimum side yard setback from 20 down to 7 feet, and a reduction in the minimum lot width at the right-of-way from 140 to 100, and an increase in the imperviousness of each individual lot from 25 to 50 feet. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions or comments you might have this evening. Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you. I'll open up to council. Any questions or comments for applicants or staff?
All right, thanks. Ken, thanks as always for your thorough description there.
Thank you.
As I look at it here, the biggest difference here is slimming down, the biggest change is slimming down the width of the lot from 140 feet down to 100. I'm just curious, by doing that, how many additional lots are you able to incorporate into this if?
Yeah, let me first try to start answering that by referring you back to the fact that this development is intended to really comport with the Harmony development. And so we use standards from the Harmony second subdivision, Second Amendment, which we recently did, and you might be familiar with that project at the corner of Bus Grove and Latham Parkway. So we felt like we wanted to be able to bring architectural product to this development that did not need as wide a lot. But to answer your question directly, we probably picked up an additional 3 or 4 lots as a result of that. Given the unique nature of the site and the curvy roadway section, these lots actually get quite a bit bigger once they leave the right-of-way. So although the front chord distance, if you would, is 100 feet, that would be the lineal length from corner to corner of the front at the right-of-way. As soon as you depart from the right-of-way, the lots begin to splay out. And by the time you get to the rear lot line, you're likely at or exceeding the 140 foot of width.
Okay, thanks. So that 100 foot, is that, Chad, consistent with the standard in Harmony?
Actually, I'm looking at that overlay now, and the majority of those lots and filings actually went down to 60 feet with their lot width. So this is actually more than that. So staff was comfortable with that not being a significant change as it was more in the earlier Harmony filings.
Okay, and then in the Timnath Lakes R2, do you know what they'll be under that?
I believe it's 54. Yeah. Yes, it would be a lot with the 54 and the R2 dimensional.
Great. And then my last question is, this changes the impervious lot coverage from 25% to 50%. What does that end up looking like practically? What does that term impervious lot coverage mean, and
Well,
how does that change what happens?
So the 25% imperviousness, which is a base standard, is really quite a small number when you consider 3-car, 4-car garages. This is an estate development, large areas of roof, driveway, parking courts and the like, possibly large outdoor covered patios and patio areas that you would not normally see in a subdivision. As Chad mentioned, many of the lots, for instance, in filing 5 and 6 of the Harmony development are 60 to 80 foot frontages, and their lot size is approximately 10 to 12,000 square feet. This is intended to be a state residential, so you're going to see patios and possibly pools and other even courts possibly that could be included. So we felt as though 50% was appropriate.
Okay. And is that 50% still essentially less than we'll see in both the Timnath Lakes and the Harmony in terms of maintaining that residential state comp plan designation?
Sorry about that. If you're comparing it lot sizes, it should be about the same. the coverage for that lot. In R2, yeah, so the R2 allows for that 60%. So although it's going to be a smaller lot, smaller home, it should be comparable to a larger buildable area in this development.
Thank you, Chad. That's all I have, Luke.
Chad, I was hoping, so in review criteria number 5, can you provide more detail what you mean about new housing products and what it means to be an infill development as well in that review criteria?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I don't have that pulled up in front of me.
I was just hoping for a little more clarification around what that means in that criteria and how that affects this.
You said
decision.
criteria 5, is that what you?
Yeah. Review criteria number 5 on.
Negative impacts on adjacent land use.
So number 5 is the planned development district results in a more efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, the first one, I apologize. In the PD overlay.
As far as the type of homes in this development, having this PD overlay does allow for, as you could see, the larger home types or the smaller lot size that would not necessarily be allowed within that estate residential zoning district. So it does give an added housing type within Timnath, although there is some already in the likes of Harmony subdivision. But it would be a continuation of that. So in comparison to other larger estate residential developments that may be coming into town or already in town, that's just offering a different housing type from that aspect. And then as far as
And what does that second statement mean? Like to maximize the use of the property as an infill development?
Yeah, so typically infill development is just a vacant lot that you are just repurposing for the use of either residential or commercial. So in this case, it would be any residential or accessory structure within that being part of the PD overlay.
Thanks, Chad.
All right. With that, Melissa, can you run our public hearing on the PD overlay amendment?
Yes, I will open the public hearing at 7:02 for ordinance number 3. I don't have anybody signed up. I will close that public hearing at 7:02.
Okay. With that, do I have a motion on ordinance number 3, series 2024, and ordinance approving the McMorris Plan Development Overlay Amendment?
I move to approve ordinance number 3, series 2024, on ordinance approving the McMorris Plan Development Overlay Amendment.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, just briefly, I think that this does make sense. It makes a nice bridge between the neighboring developments and then also right across Busgrove there where we've reviewed that. I think this all fits into the area. And the PD overlay, the change is relatively minimal, only picking up a couple of lots. So I think it still, maintains the feel as intended in the comprehensive plan, and I think this makes sense. So I will vote to approve.
I'll add that, yeah, I believe in my judgment, it meets the legal criteria that we've set forth for a PD overlay amendment. And I appreciate that it is compatible with the existing neighborhood that it's being integrated into. Any other comments? Okay. With that, we'll have a vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance number 3, series 24, and ordinance approving McMorris Plan Development Overlay Amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ordinance passes unanimously. Item 6D, resolution number 12, series 2024, a resolution approving the McMorris preliminary plat. Chad, I won't ask you to repeat yourself. Is there anything to add from your presentation from 6C?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Melissa, could you run a public hearing for this item?
I will open the public hearing for resolution number 12 at 7:04. I do not have anybody signed up to speak. I will close the public hearing at 7:04.
Thank you. Do I have a motion on resolution number 12, series 2024, a resolution approving the McMorris preliminary plat?
Move to approve Resolution 12, Series 2024, a resolution approving the McMorris preliminary plat.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The resolution number 12, series 2024, a resolution approving the McMorris preliminary plat passes unanimously. Next is business item 6E, a resolution making certain findings of fact and declaring eligibility of the proposed annexation of parcels of land to the town of Timnath, Colorado, known as the Connell Annexation Number 3. Kevin.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. As we get our technology up and running again. So as you'd mentioned, this is a resolution making certain findings of fact and declaring eligibility of the proposed annexation of parcels known as Connell Annexation Number 3. These parcels of land and adjacent to right-of-way are located at the northwest corner of Kechter Road and County Road 5. This resolution of finding of fact is basically determining that this property is eligible for annexation, that it meets the 1/6 contiguity requirements set forth in the state statutes, that it is there are no conditions being asked for with this annexation. That the property will not result in property being divided into separate parcels or parts under identical ownership, that no annexation proceedings have been commenced for annexation of the property by any other municipality, that the entire width of all streets and alleys are being included within the area to be annexed. The annexation of the property will not result in the detachment of, from any school district or the attachment of the same to another school district, that the annexation will not have effect and will not result in the denial of reasonable access to landowners of an easement or owners of any platted street or alley, and that the annexation petition will not extend the boundary of the town more than 3 miles in any direction from that point. So in the staff report, I'd also put in some advantages and disadvantages of the annexation. Those are just more generic towards the annexation of this as a whole. Just kind of giving you guys some idea of what would be some, advantages, disadvantages, and financial implications of this annexation. Those aren't necessarily consideration for this finding of fact. This finding of fact is just to show that this annexation does meet the requirements set forth in the state statutes, the Colorado Constitution, Section 2, Article 30, and requirements of Section 10 of our Land Use Code, which is our annexation section of the code. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions for you at that point.
Any questions from the council?
I have a couple, Kevin.
Yep.
One of the statutory requirements is that the town prepares an annexation impact report, given that this is over 10 acres in size. I just want to confirm that was done. And
Yep.
Can you talk about what that is?
Yeah, so the annexation impact report is a report that talks about what this property will have general impact on to bringing it within the town. So what would financial impact be? What would be impact on policing? What would the impact be on fire, utilities, some things like that? Since this is over 10 acres, an annexation impact report was done. The impact report only needs to be filed with the county and then special districts such as water district, sewer district, school district. So that impact report was done and filed with all of those entities as required by statute.
Okay. I know at least one community member has asked, is that impact report available for those that want to review it?
It is, yeah.
Okay. And do we need to go to the county or is it available on our website or?
We normally don't post an annexation impact report on our website, but it is available if we need to.
Is that perhaps something that we could include in the future council packet for the annexation?
We could.
Okay, appreciate that. And then you talked about a couple of advantages here. One, talking about how annexation allows the town to have land use approval authority over expected development of the property. Can you talk a little bit about what that means?
So with it annexing to the town having land use authority over it is, so any application for development would have to come through us as the town. So any type of sketch plan, preliminary plat, final plat, site plan development, it would then fall under planning commission and then your overall authority for meeting our standards and criteria. From that standpoint, if it were to not annex, it would then fall to the county, go through county's process. So at that point, we would have, I would say, virtually no say in that process, as we would only be a referral from the county that they would just ask input if a development were meeting storm drainage criteria for the town, if it fell within a storm drainage basin, or if they meet road criteria. But the actual development of the property, we would virtually have no say in that, as it would fall to the county standards of whatever process they were going through.
Okay. And then you also talk about annexing would incorporate roads and right-of-way scheduled for future improvement under the town's transportation master plan. And I know that our master plan will be coming out shortly, and we'll be talking about that. But can you talk a little bit more about how annexation helps facilitate the road and traffic issues in the area?
Yeah, so like I had mentioned, this annexation also includes the adjacent right-of-ways, which is County Road 5 and Kector. So on our transportation master plan currently, and then that's coming forward, we identify road improvements that are to be done in the future. And typically those roads are intended to be done when they are annexed within the town. So if an annexation such as this, as a voluntary annexation, doesn't bring the adjacent roads and right-of-ways, they would stay in the county, which then the county has the overall oversight just as development of those roads for maintenance and improvements. The county would have a different time period on if and when any of these roads would be improved. At that point, so then it potentially road improvements would delay longer depending on their time period. But if annexed within the town, even without development, we would then have the ability of the oversight to do road improvements because it is under our jurisdiction and not the county. So that's kind of the benefit of annexing those adjacent right-of-ways.
Okay. And then Carolyn, just so I'm clear on what we're doing here, if we pass this item, this does not commit us to annexing. It just kind of lays that groundwork that says if the town chooses to annex, the legal requirements have been met. Am I understanding that right?
That's correct. So this resolution is only making a finding that the statutory criteria are met with the constitutional criteria. And there will be a separate ordinance on annexation, which is on for first reading today, second reading on February 13th. And there's two separate processes set forth in the statute. It specifically says after this resolution is found, then the governing body may annex the property. So do you still have the decision on annexation to be made at a later date?
Thank you. And I assume this wouldn't be before us if you felt otherwise, but you are comfortable that all of the legal requirements have been met for this annexation?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mayor Pro Tem, this is a public hearing, just to
Thank
remind you.
Melissa, will you run the public hearing for us?
I will open the public hearing at 7:14. First up is Kyle Danford.
Town Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kyle Danford. I live on Banner Street here in Timnath. My wife and I and our 4 children plan to be a part of this community for many years, so we have a vested interest in the quality and timing of new developments. My family and our neighbors are very excited about the Ladera project for many reasons. We can't wait to have the opportunity to drive, ride a bike, or even walk to the thoughtfully designed project and take advantage of all it will offer. I think about the potential first-time jobs my young kids could have a minute down the road instead of driving 15, 20 minutes into Fort Collins or into Windsor or another town. But now, because of only a handful of people, all this may be in jeopardy. We have a ballot initiative before us that should not be here. I do all I can to be an informed citizen, and it's no surprise to any of you on council who are much more informed than me, but even I understand there are no solid reasons to not annex Ladera into Timnath before reclamation is complete. I'm worried that interested businesses might not want to locate here now due to this and go somewhere else. We may not be able to get what we want and need here, such as restaurants, entertainment, potentially a grocery store. We know about respite care potentially coming to Timnath, which is very exciting. We're hoping Ladera moves forward so our town can benefit from the added tax dollars. I'm guessing that the added tax revenue could go a long way in our small town. Personally, I would much rather spend my money in the municipality that I live in so that I can reap the rewards instead of spending it somewhere else. I'm also curious to know of our sales tax revenue that we receive in Timnath, how much of this revenue comes from residents outside of Timnath? I can appreciate a different opinion, but what I can't appreciate is a handful of individuals who use scare tactics to promote their selfish goals, which impact the rest of us that live here. This group hired people from outside our town to walk door to door to get signatures for the 1A initiative. These people were pushy and downright rude if I refused to sign, and this happened multiple times. Apologize. I was like, what I would wish is the people who are against us actually went and did that themselves to hear what the residents of our town actually, what they really want and hear what they really want. And now we're spending time and money that could be better spent elsewhere. It worked just fine with Walmart, but now it's an issue with this project. As a citizen of Timnath, I believe in personal responsibility. It's my responsibility to sign up to get information and to access the various ways that town communicates. I want to thank the town for their dedication to sharing information with residents on upcoming developments. As a busy working father, I appreciate having the option to sign up to receive the weekly emails, look at the town's social media sites, and I appreciate the town's website is updated with information that is easy to find. I appreciate the town council members hosting coffee talks so I can hear their thoughts on issues and make themselves available to answer any questions. Any given week, I can find pretty much an immediate answer by going to one of these alternatives. Thank you to each of you. I appreciate how thoughtfully considered supporting the majority of those that you guys represent. Tonight's ability to address those we voted into office and have them listen to us is a fine example of a good town government. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Melissa? Okay.
Next is Irv Christie.
Hello, Irv Christie at 5821 River Bluff Drive here in Timnath. I had two items on the sign-in sheet. I'll address both of them during this time. On January 15th, I submitted an email with 6 significant questions to members of the Planning Commission, all members of Town Council, and the Town Manager, and would request that those questions be answered on a public record. Actually, I think you actually answered most of them, but I appreciate that. My second topic is regarding the Planning Commission meeting last week, where Grant Nelson, who represented Ladera, referenced an economic study and made several statements in there about potential tax revenue to Timnath and Depew School District. These statements included things like $200 million in the first 25 years, $4 million a year in revenue to Depew School District, and $10 million a year at full build-out. As far as I know, there's no one in Timnath that's currently chartered with the Business Economic Development Impact person. And as a young professional, I learned it would be my best interest to trust everybody, but still brand my cattle. And so I think that's part of inspection that I think is missing from the proposal that was presented. So I'd like to know who from Timnath is able to inspect these claims and develop both a best case and a worst case scenario for the economic impact to Timnath, especially given the current high interest rates, and we're seeing retail establishments fail quite frequently in the Northern Colorado area. Some of the questions I think that should be asked are things like, what assumptions were made to develop these numbers? When will the revenue start to appear? What happens if development takes longer than expected? How much tax revenue is currently coming from the large floor and decor store? Based on the number of cars I see in the parking lot, it doesn't seem to be a growing business. How much revenue is forecast when that plan was approved? I'm hopeful that the $200 million forecast number is real. However, I think it's in the fiduciary responsibility of the town to inspect the numbers and to look at worst case scenarios. What if interest rates increase again? What's the worst case scenario that still make development viable? The majority of Ladera development is going to be retail. What's the expected income of those jobs? Are they going to be able to afford to live in Timnath? I think the answer to that is clearly no. Is any of the housing units that are being developed going to be low-income housing to allow people to live in Timnath and work in Timnath? So I request two things. One, can the economic study that was mentioned be made available to the public and give people a chance to look at it and inspect it? And secondly, can someone from the council ensure that they're taking the fiduciary responsibility seriously and looking at worst case scenarios before the annexation is approved? Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Speed.
Last time I lost my notes on my phone, so I printed it out this time. I also have the cough that you have, so I feel that pain. Of course. Excuse me. My name is Amy Speed, and I live with my husband and two daughters on Wishing Drive in Timnath. Council, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak before you this evening. I'm sharing a letter that myself and a Timnath Ranch resident, along with Craig and Colleen Okers, as well as Mark and Terry Burke, who reside in Harmony, would like to be included in tonight's meeting. The town of Timnath continues to grow, along with other northern Colorado communities. Our residential developments with their well-planned parks and open space are very desirable with long-term growth expected. The mayor and council leadership recognize the importance of creating opportunities to diversify our income streams and help pay for our growth. A strong sales tax revenue stream that supports our services and long-term economic health is critical. There is no question a strong, reliable revenue flow from sales tax is imperative to our economic vitality and pays a considerable amount of Timnath's operating expenses. We're very fortunate to have Costco, Walmart, and Floor & Decor in place so far. The Ladera development further diversifies our local economy with job creation opportunities and additional sales tax revenues. From what we understand, the existing 55 acres in Ladera has already been annexed zone and is now ready for development. The developers submitted a final plat with 12 commercial lots to Timnath Planning Commission on January 16th. The final plan was approved by Planning Commission and now forwarded to each of you for final approval. The additional 188 acres adjacent to the initial 55 was submitted and approved by Timnath Planning Commission on January 16th. The developer is requesting Timnath annex an additional 188 acres with the same zoning as those initial 55. The 188 acre request has been forwarded to Timnath for discussions at tonight's council meeting. Please know that how each of us and many more of our neighbors who are not here tonight support this Ladera development. A growing number of Timnath residents and I are disappointed that a group has garnered enough signatures to get the reclamation of the existing gravel pit on the April ballot to stop the development and try to reverse these existing approvals. Developers and miners routinely have converted gravel mines into quality commercial and residential projects without environmental hazards. Walmart, just a few blocks away from the Ladera site, started out as a gravel mine. As community citizens, we rely on state regulations, our paid professionals on town staff, and volunteer town leaders to ensure all necessary regulatory approvals are satisfied before the final plat are approved and final plans are approved and the development begins. Ladera is no different. As Timnath residents, we want to thank each of you who serve as on our town councils, commissions, and our committees, and our paid professionals who we entrust to do an excellent job at executing these critical projects. Ladera is an excellent use for land bordering an interstate highway and buffering residential development. The long-term revenue stream from all of these jobs and the sales tax being created benefits each and every resident, including my family. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's it. I will close the public hearing at 7:24.
Thank you. We have multiple votes coming up related to some of the issues and questions that have been raised. For this particular item, I'm going to stay within the scope of this agenda item as there will be further discussion, I believe, later this meeting, as well as next meeting when we have a second reading regarding the annexation. As far as this particular agenda item goes, does it meet the basic legal criteria to be considered for annexation? So that is the discussion, the relevant yes or no vote related to this particular agenda item. With that, do I have a motion on resolution number 13, 2024, a resolution making certain findings of fact and declaring eligibility of the proposed annexation of parcels of land to the town of Timnath, Colorado, known as the Connell Annexation Number 3?
I move to approve resolution number 13, 2024, a resolution making certain findings of fact and declaring eligibility of the proposed annexation of parcels of the land to the town of Timnath, Colorado, known as the Connell Annexation Number 3.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll go ahead and make a quick comment as far as discussion. I think we've had the legal criteria laid out by town staff. And I see no conflict with this proposed annexation with the legal criteria that we've laid out for a property to be considered eligible for annexation. So I'll be voting to approve this resolution. Any other discussion?
You know, I concur that our job here is to look at whether or not the legal criteria is met. I think that staff lays out that it is. Legal counsel confers that it's met. The one comment I'll make is the statutory requirement of the impact report being filed, I think has been technically complied with. But I do think that is something that in the future would be helpful for council to be able to actually review and ask any questions about. So I'm not going to hold this up on that, but I would ask that report be included for the council packet next time when we're actually on a second reading, presumably on annexation. But for those reasons, I'll be voting to approve.
No, I would just agree with you here, Brett, based on what we're voting on tonight. And Kevin, I appreciate what you presented tonight and those clarifications. And thank you, Carolyn. I appreciate that.
With that, we will take a vote. All those in favor of the resolution, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Resolution number 13, 2024, a resolution making certain findings of fact and declaring eligibility of the proposed annexation of parcels of land of the town of Timnath, Colorado, known as the Connell Annexation Number 3, passes unanimously. With that, I'm going to suggest we take a 3 to 4 minute break. I've been trying to stay hydrated with this cough, so I apologize for, I'm going to need a 3-minute break here. We'll reconvene and we'll call it just after 7:30. Stuck in the middle with you guys. Let's see, we need Carolyn around, I believe, somewhere. Okay. That was not a dig at staff, I promise. I guess, do we need Carolyn for these next couple agenda items or?
She's
Oh, you're here. Welcome. All right, moving on to 6F, resolution number 14, series 2024. A resolution approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the town of Berthoud concerning a joint agreement for animal control services with NOCO Humane. Kevin.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and I'll do 6F and 6G together as they go hand in hand. I will try and keep this brief. Back in 2022, the town, since we had growing needs for animal control, reached out to then Larimer Humane Society. They have recently rebranded to be NOCO Humane for animal control services. At that time, the services for an individual town with them would have been cost prohibitive. So at that time, they had mentioned that there was interest from the town of Berthoud. So we teamed with Berthoud to provide animal control services to both Berthoud and us. Back in the 2022 realm, there was some conversations with the town of Wellington to add them into the mix. To basically be a 3-town service for now NOCO Humane. They were not interested at that time, but this at the end of last year, Wellington kind of finally came to the table, reached out to both Berthoud and us to see if we would be willing to add them into the contract agreement with NOCO Humane to include them for kind of the joint service, which we were both more than willing to do that. So what we have is basically an amendment to the IGA with us, Berthoud, and now NOCO Humane to add in Wellington. And then we have an amendment to the contract for the cost of the services. And I'll just touch briefly that this year we had budgeted and approved $31,000 for that service with NOCO Humane. With adding in Wellington for this, it would actually reduce the cost to $27,000. So just roughly a $4,000 savings. And that's due to our basically our call for services and impounds with NOCO Humane. So we actually do save a little bit with that. All of the services that we have been getting from them will still continue to be the same. We'll get 5 days a week from them, 8 hours a day with emergency services. So nothing from a service standpoint is going to change. We just are now sharing an additional kind of service with Wellington. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you have on that.
So if I could just sum up, I guess we're adding another town to our animal control services agreement, so we'll get the same services but pay less.
Correct. The only thing that we would see a little bit of a drop in after I had conversations with the animal control director at NOCO Humane is the amount of just initiated patrol that they do. So whenever they just decide to go out and drive around to see what's going on, they right now, he said they kind of average about 220 a month initiated patrols in Timnath. He said if anything that would drop to maybe around the 170, 180. So we would just see a little bit of a dip in that because they got to then spread out to get to Wellington as well. But all the other services, if there's a dispatch call, they still would respond to that as normal. Just the only thing that would change is their initiated patrols.
Okay. Do we get a lot of calls to the town regarding animal control needs? I don't know if is it going straight to them or does it go through us and we send it to them?
No, it's going straight to them. Ever since we implemented this with NOCO Humane, the actual calls that we get at the town have virtually become non-existent.
Okay.
Because we've published it, social media website that any animal control goes through NOCO Humane now. So they primarily get all of those calls. If anything, we might get one or two random one-offs just, from folks not understanding, and then we direct them back over to the Humane Society for them to handle that.
Okay, thank you. Luke, any questions?
So I saw a couple things in here. So it says that they do some reporting, and I just couldn't find those reports on our website. Do we publish the data that they present in those reports?
We can. It's their reporting is just a very generic. They did 22, the 220 or so patrols, but we can publish those if you would like that.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful. I'm also interested to know, because it looks like they have a program where residents can participate in education as well. So I'd be interested to know if any of our residents actually take place in that education, or what kind of communication we send out about those.
I can ask them if anyone has been involved with that. All of that education and training is done at their facility over in Loveland.
Okay.
From that standpoint, they don't do anything here at the town. From that standpoint, but I can reach out to them to see if they know of anyone from Timnath that has signed up for any of their education classes.
Thank you. And I just want to comment, after last week's meeting, I saw the 90-day termination clause. So I was just happy to see that we're setting the standards. So thank you.
Luke asked all my questions. Good job.
With that, do I have a motion on resolution number 14, series 2024, a resolution approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the town of Berthoud concerning a joint agreement for animal control services with NOCO Humane?
Move to approve Resolution 14, Series 2024, a resolution approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the town of Berthoud concerning a joint agreement for animal control services with NOCO Humane.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Resolution number 14, series 2024, a resolution approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the town of Berthoud concerning a joint agreement for animal control services with NOCO Humane. 6G, resolution number 15, series 2024, a resolution approving an amendment to the joint agreement for animal control services with NOCO Humane. Kevin?
Nothing further on that. That's just the actual agreement then that sets in place the contract amount. Like I mentioned, it's just over $27,000 for this year. It gets looked at every year based on the amount of calls and impounds, so that will fluctuate kind of year by year and based on appropriation by you all. But for this year, it's that $27,000.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? With that, do I have a motion on resolution number 15, series 2024, a resolution approving an amendment to the joint agreement for animal control services with NOCO Humane?
I move to approve resolution number 15, series 2024, a resolution approving an amendment to the joint agreement for animal control services with NOCO Humane.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution number 15, series 2024, a resolution approving an amendment to the joint agreement for animal control services with NOCO Humane passes unanimously. Then we'll go to our pulled consent agenda item 4G. First reading and setting a public hearing on February 13th, 2024, ordinance number 7, series 2024, an ordinance for annexation for property known as Connell Annexation 3. Kevin?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So there we go. As we had talked about with the finding of fact, this is for 2 parcels of land and adjacent right-of-way, roughly totaling that 188.5 acres at the northwest corner of Kechter and County Road 5. This is the initiation of that ordinance, so the first reading, setting that public hearing. If there's anything that you all as council would like me to elaborate on, I'd be more than happy to elaborate on that at this point.
Also, applicants are present
Correct.
and have representatives present as well.
I guess I will open it up to the applicants if there's anything you'd like to present today, or just more react.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, Carolyn White, Land Use Attorney for the applicant. And we do have a full-blown presentation for you. It is planned to be presented at the public hearing on second reading. It's about 30 minutes long. If you'd like to hear it tonight, we can deliver it tonight. Otherwise, we're prepared to answer any specific questions that you would like to address related to this item.
Personally, I would prefer to have the presentation when we have more of our council and we've had the chance for public comment. I don't know if anybody feels strongly. Okay. So that will not be necessary, but thank you for being prepared. With that, I will open it up to council comments or questions. Robert, I believe you have some. You look
Okay.
ready to go.
Thank you. Luke, anything? Okay. I have a laundry list, and I guess I just want to kind of make a checklist, make sure that we do have the opportunity to consider all this and that folks are prepared. One of my items of concern is probably for Carolyn, which is I wonder if it may not make sense to schedule an executive session for our next council meeting. Specifically, I am interested in obtaining legal advice as to what the impact to the town in terms of legal liability is if this property were to be annexed either before or after the election, given the pending ballot initiative there. And
Yes, that's not a problem. This is a legislative action and there's no problem with scheduling that executive session. So we will plan to do so probably before the regular meeting, but we'll consult with staff on that.
And then also as part of that, I would be interested in a legal opinion as to what the ability of the town is, or are there limitations of the town's ability to define or redefine when property rights are vested, and how this annexation plays into that.
No problem.
We've covered a couple of things here, but I would just ask that this be incorporated into the presentation when we get that. And this is as a result of some citizen questions. Specifically, and Kevin, you mentioned this in your report, kind of how does it work if we annex property into the town that creates a legal non-conforming use? And what does that process look like? Are we stuck with that non-conforming use in perpetuity? If they want to change that non-conforming use, what does that look like? So I would be interested in some more information about that. There are also questions asked about the annexation agreement itself. It's different than I think what was originally proposed some time ago. And the current annexation agreement does not address significant contractual terms. It's kind of a standard annexation agreement. And so some discussion as to the history and why it makes sense for this annexation agreement to be a standard annexation agreement as opposed to hammer out everything else. And then I had made a request to staff to reach out to the Colorado Division of Reclamation, Mining, and Safety in the hopes that someone from that agency could come here and help educate us as to that whole mining and reclamation process, what the oversight looks like, what the bond is to ensure that the property is specifically covered and reclaimed. I understand that staff did reach out and they politely declined our invitation to come here and be subject to the firing squad approach, but they are willing to provide written responses to some questions that we ask. And so my hope is in the next couple of days, we can turn around some questions to them that specifically address what the reclamation process is, specifically addresses how the bond works, how one can be assured that the bond that's in place is sufficient to cover the reclamation, and then also talk about what, if any, liability the town would incur if for some reason the mine were not reclaimed. I know that your staff report asserts that essentially there would be final reclamation probably would not become the responsibility of the town by annexing this property. I appreciate that you said that, Kevin. I assume it's true, but I would like to hear that from somebody else as well. So those are some of the things that I was hoping that we can make sure that we cover at the public hearing. That's what I've got.
Thanks, Robert. Luke, any comments, anything on that? Great. I prefer to continue taking more information myself before I opine too much on it. So I will also wait till we get more information and have our public hearing. And I will state that, I'd like to get rid of the asphalt plant, and I'd like to put something better there. And so I am going to be thoughtfully looking at how we can move that forward. So that is my baseline position, and we'll see where we're going to go from there. So with that, so we have a public hearing on this at the second reading to confirm, correct, Carolyn? Okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So with that, then we will jump to asking for a motion on first reading and setting a public hearing on February 13th, 2024. Ordinance number 7, series 2024, an ordinance for annexation for property known as Connell Annexation 3. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the first reading and setting a public hearing on February 13th, 2024, ordinance number 7, series 2024, an ordinance for the annexation for property known as Connell Annexation 3.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion, first reading and setting a public hearing on February 13th, 2024, ordinance number 7, series 2024, an ordinance for annexation of property known as Connell Annexation 3 passes unanimously. Any other items that anyone wants to bring up? Aaron, Carolyn? All right. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.